Iran may be taking some unusual measures to try to protect its controversial nuclear program. There are signs the country has put its experts to work on what would be Iran's own internet, separate from the World Wide Web. CNN's Brian Todd is working the story for us. Brian, what's going on here?
Wolf, we have information that Iran is actually developing two internets, one military, one civilian. Iran says they're in response to cyber attacks, but experts say there's another motive too.
Iran claims its nuclear program is under cyber siege, saying in recent days that power lines for an enrichment facility were sabotaged. The Stuxnet virus, blamed on the U.S. and Israel, had already set Iran's nuclear program back at least a year. How is Tehran countering all of it? With its own internets. A top Iranian official recently bragged that Iran will develop a separate military internet of its own. A national intelligence network, he said, where the precious intelligence of the country won't be accessible to these powers.
And what they're planning to do is basically have a central server here in Tehran, which then connects to each and every one of their nuclear facilities as well as all their military installations, some of which are all the way down here in the southeastern part of the country.
And CNN has now learned Iran is already developing a civilian version of that. Colin Anderson, an independent researcher, is publishing a report on it in the coming weeks. Anderson, who didn't want to go on camera, tells CNN he recently discovered unusual activity in blocks of computer addresses in Iran, separate from the World Wide Web. He says they were sending content across the country. Anderson believes the Iranians want to be able to disconnect from the standard internet when they're under attack, maybe even permanently, and function on their own in cyberspace.
And here's how they're already doing it. This is the login page for a webmail site called mail.iran.ir. Here's where you sign into it. Colin Anderson says this is Iran's alternative, a competitor really to Gmail. It's already publicly available in Iran. People can send emails on this. It's not completely separate from the internet right now, but Anderson says in Iran the government can disconnect from the worldwide internet service and users would still have access to this service.
Anderson says right now Iran's internal internet can also connect people with businesses and government ministries. I asked Cedric Leighton, former official at the National Security Agency who's monitored Iran's cyber efforts, about the Iranians' claim that they're building their own internet simply for their own protection.
Is that the only reason they're doing it?
They're using this as a way to control their population, and they're doing it in a way that is very, very ubiquitous. It is going to cover all of the different aspects of Iran's social connection to the internet.
And Colin Anderson says on that mail.iran.ir service, the government can read any correspondence going out or coming in, and certainly does so, Wolf.
Sure they do. All right, thanks very much, Brian, for that.